Welcome to the webinar on qualitative data in culturally rich evaluations. This webinar is sponsored by the National Institute for Mathematical and Biological Synthesis and the National Institute for STEM Evaluation and Research, both of which are located here at the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. I'm here as the moderator for this. This is Louis Gross. I'm the director of what we locally call NIMBioS, the National Institute for Mathematical and Biological Synthesis, and we're very pleased to have you join us for this webinar. The webinar is for a group of people who are interested in various ways that evaluation can assist in the broadening participation aspects of all NSF projects, and is particularly oriented towards those who are involved in STEM education and in STEM evaluation. And the objective is for those attendees to learn more about what is happening in this area with regard to evaluation. The information that we're presenting could be of interest to really any person in education wishing to learn more about evaluating a variety of uses of evaluation materials. And I will tell you that this is being recorded, and we will post the webinar and the variety of chats that are occurring after the meeting on the website for the series of webinars which are supported by the National Science Foundation through a Includes award to the University of Tennessee. This is your basic Zoom webinar screen. If you have any questions, you go up and click the little button up there at the top that says chat. And if you click that, it will then bring up a chat window on the side here in which you can decide upon who the question is visible to, because you can choose the group of people, either presenters or everyone. If it's to the presenters, it will be seen only by us here, and if you choose everyone, everyone will be able to see it. You simply type your question in the little area where it says type, and that will appear for us. So the webinar will last on the order of half an hour, depending upon how many questions there are. And I will tell you that this webinar is derived in part from a workshop done by our key presenter. Our key presenter is Sandra Leray, who is here as the evaluation manager of the National Institute for STEM Evaluation and Research. And she has a tremendous amount of experience in both secondary and post-secondary STEM education, and has been an evaluator on a wide range of different projects involving STEM research and evaluation. She has worked very closely with a wide variety of clients for both qualitative and quantitative data analysis to formatively and summatively evaluate a range of programs both here at NISER and prior to that. And the webinar that you'll see today is in part derived from a workshop that she developed for the annual meeting of the AEA, the American Evaluation Association, that is sort of reduced for this in length for this presentation. So that means if you have questions, you should feel free to post them on the chat screen. So go ahead and start.
Thank you.
And Sandra, it's all yours. Looks like we have a little audio thing showing up on some people's screens and not others.
Okay.
We'll try and fix that.
A little audio box.
Yeah.
I see it as well. So let me see if I can move that audio box away. Let's see. I'm trying one more time just to see if that works. Still showing?
It's still showing. So let's go ahead, and I think we'll just have to ignore that it's there. I don't think it's going to interfere.
And when we get the recording posted, we'll make sure that it's not, the audio box is not showing. So to start out, we'll talk a little bit about what NSF Includes is, because they're helping to fund this evaluation webinar through a Dear Colleague letter. And we'll talk about qualitative data and culturally rich evaluations. And in that manner, we'll discuss three things: how qualitative data can help inform, give us insights into the program, and help immerse us in the program as well. Then we'll share some resources that you can refer to beyond the webinar, and then we'll take time for questions and comments. So first, let's start off with what is NSF Includes. NSF Includes is called Inclusion Across the Nation of Communities of Learners of Underrepresented Discoverers in Engineering and Science. And there are three essential components to NSF Includes. There are the design and development launch pilots. There are alliances, and there's a national network of a coordination hub. And so there are over 70 design and development launch pilots that have a pilot cycle of about 18 months to 2 years. And those will form into alliances where the program will scale up, and then they will be managed through a national coordination hub. And as we mentioned, even though NSF Includes is our funding agent for this particular series of webinars, I'll talk about evaluation and assessment with qualitative data that would work well with any program evaluation project. So we'll begin by thinking about evaluation as a celebration of learning. So when I'm entering into an evaluation project, I really like to be involved in the beginning. Just like I was celebrating, was getting ready to do a celebration for a graduation or a birthday or a wedding, I like to be involved in getting things organized, picking out the theme, deciding what food will be served, and choosing the guest list, maybe even sending out invitations. But sometimes in evaluation projects, I kind of feel like I'm late to the party, or as if I'm a surprise guest. So on the picture on the right, you see a woman who looks like she's joining a party. Either it's a surprise and it's going to end up being a delightful thing, or maybe she's gotten the wrong address or is crashing a party. So sometimes I can feel like that in evaluation. So in both cases, I can use qualitative data to help enrich my understanding of the culture and the celebration that's taking place. So we're going to imagine, I'm going to share some case studies like we talked about in our description, where I'm joining the evaluation in the planning process in the beginning stage, or in terms of NSF Includes, maybe I'm involved in the pilot project and scaling up to the alliance. And then times where I've had to kind of jump in like a late party guest. So first, let's start by talking about what we mean by qualitative data. So qualitative data, I think of as data collected with people using my senses. So there are some typical qualitative data pieces that we often think of: focus groups and interviews, maybe two most common ones. But there are also participant observations, reflective journaling, mind mapping, team meetings, photo essays, and maybe performance analysis. So with all these different pieces, it's sometimes hard to think about, how am I going to fit all of these things together? And in the cartoon on the right, you see what I assume to be an evaluator. This is a cartoon by Chris Leslie. And she has all these pieces that are trying to put together into an evaluation report. And in our webinar description, we refer to that as layering. So this other cartoon by Chris Leslie, Fresh Spectrum, says, "We live in different places across the country. Do you really think we're the same audience?" And NSF Includes, when we talk about, and in other grant projects, where we talk about multi-site evaluations or bringing in different populations, it's important to be mindful of the culture that we're doing the evaluation in. So qualitative data can help with that. I think of it as like the triple I, like I want to put my eye on you. It's letter I, but like a human eye. I want to keep an eye on the many pieces of the evaluation project. I want to be able to do three really main things. I want to be able to immerse myself. That's the first I. I want to gain insights into the program, collect clues to help me gain understanding. And then I want to be able to inform the design of instruments that I use for measurement and assessment. And sometimes those instruments are quantitative. So when talking about these I's on the program, we'll discuss bringing in quantitative data. So here's the first case study I'd like to share with you that has to do with that first I, immersion. So in this case study, I was working with an engineering department. And I think of immersion as getting the being there experience. So I'm not an engineer, and I was working on the evaluation to help them design a curriculum model. And so I was getting a being there experience by participating in their planning meetings for curriculum. And we looked at this as we used mind mapping as a qualitative measure and team building to bring in communication and planning. And my goal was to establish a culture of transparency and communication with the group that I was wanting to learn more about. So we began by immersing ourselves in the curriculum and doing some initial mind mapping, which is one qualitative technique. And for each course, we had a large piece of chart paper, and we began by making these larger modules to talk about the curriculum alignment. But at the same time, I needed to understand more about the culture of being an engineering faculty member. So in these meetings, I was able to hear things like a worry they had is that there is their accreditation process. They want to make sure their curriculum aligns with that. They want to make sure they align with Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. They want to make sure that they're mindful of what the expectations are in terms of what it's like to be an engineer in the eyes of the institution, families, and students. So bringing all of that together and making our nodes for the mind map, we pulled out the big ideas, the big conceptual knowledge points for each course. And each time we met, we added other nodes in different colors to represent the skills that students needed to know. And then we made lines to connect, putting all the chart papers together and aligning the course through the student's journey in the engineering program. So we kind of began with the end in mind. We ended up with having a mission and vision for the program after aligning the coursework. And they developed their own digital mind map that would represent a student's experience throughout the program. So that's one type of qualitative data collection. Another case study example is with the second I that we talked about, insights. Getting insights into the people and the culture in the program. So for this particular group, it is a high school curriculum, a high school outreach curriculum in a STEM M field. And so it was a STEM M grant. And it worked with a group of students in Southern Appalachian schools in rural counties in Tennessee. And the outreach program happens in a 10th grade classroom, and it's conducted by college students at the University of Tennessee in the school psychology department. So their students in the psychology department are going into these rural Tennessee high schools and weekly implementing an eight-week module about STEM and career development and opportunities. And so we had different pieces informing different parts of the evaluation. In this case, a being there experience wasn't really possible for me as an evaluator. I wasn't able to go out into the high schools with the school psychology students to observe or have a being there experience, but I could gain insights in other ways. So naturally, we had the students doing pre and post quantitative surveys. There was even qualitative surveys that helped ask students to reflect on their experience. But I needed to know a little bit more information. I needed to know how each piece related to each other. And so we tried we tried adding reflective journaling as an additional insight into the evaluation, an insight into the people and the culture. So we tried a couple of different things, two being, I think, very typical qualitative evaluation techniques. We did focus groups with the students that were going out into the schools, in the leadership team, and also we attended board meetings where people that are working with the program were able to give insight into what they saw as the program's effectiveness and impact. But then we layered in journal writing. So the college students that were doing the interventions, each week they wrote a reflective journal response to give insight into their relationship with the school faculty, the school site, the students, and any achievements they made themselves while implementing the curriculum, any barriers they encountered. And this was done in a digital format as a Google Doc. And what was great about that is we were able to share that information amongst the other students that were doing the intervention. It gave real-time information to the program leaders. And it also gave real-time information to myself as the evaluator. I was able to look and see what students' experiences were doing the outreach over the course of the semester, and adds a rich layer. So our third final case study example goes along with the third I called inform. And so qualitative data helping to inform the design for assessment and evaluation of quantitative measures. And this is probably the I that I use most often. Because many of the projects I work with are multi-site, I need different ways to gather information from different sources. So here's an example project. In the spring of last year, we wanted to design a quantitative measure, a survey that would help us understand the impact of the long-term, low-intensity professional development model on an online quantitative biology source hub. And so, not being a quantitative biologist myself, but helping to evaluate the program, I really needed to understand more about the people that interacted on that, using that online hub, and what their needs were, or what excited them about having access to this information. So I conducted a series of focus groups to learn a little bit more about the culture from the people that are participating in the program, or in this case, using the online hub. And then I analyzed that qualitative information from the focus groups to help with my evaluation team to design a survey. We had to integrate the results to help inform the design of a survey instrument. Then the instrument was distributed to a larger population, to all of the users that use that online source, and others that might even potentially use it should they know that it existed. But it gave us a baseline information about the culture of what it's like being a quantitative biologist. After we got the survey results, we were ready to move on to another stage. I should say that within the survey, we asked participants if they would be willing to allow us to contact them for a follow-up interview so that we could delve deeper into any unknowns that came up in analyzing the survey. So we analyzed the results from the survey. We integrated that information. We layered the information from the focus group and the survey results. And we used that to form an interview guide to go on to the next stage of our evaluation, which was follow-up interviews with some of the survey participants. And again, we're working towards understanding the community and culture. And so we picked people to interview in this case that represented a wide variety of respondents from our survey. People who were very familiar with the online platform that we were asking about, some that had never experienced it before, some with great feedback, and then some with more areas to grow that they would like to see with that platform. So we brought those pieces from the interviews together into an integration, a layering of all three sources: the focus group, the survey, and the interviews. And this has a name in mixed methods research called exploratory sequential mixed methods. So getting Getting back to those 3 I's, I thought it was important to share some feedback we've received from the evaluation clients that we've worked with, since we're very purposeful about making data-driven decisions with our clients with regard to the information we gather. So this is a quote from one of the people that we work with. It says, when you ask questions, and they're referring to us being a part of their regularly occurring leadership meetings, it reminds me that other people don't know what we're thinking or what we know about this project. Without having their experience with some portions of the project, the people on the leadership team may not know what the project looks like from the outside, and you can't always gather that information from a survey. And I love this quote from John Dewey. I think about it often in my evaluation work. We do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on that experience. And that's really what evaluation helps people to do, is help them reflect on the experience the people that they're intended to serve are having. Here's another quick quote. Things feel more cohesive. We're talking with each other. This was from a large multi-site evaluation where in getting together, each group was very focused on what was happening at their site, which seems very rational. You'd want to make sure what's happening at your site, your piece of the multi-site project, is going really well. But you also need to think about, especially when we consider NSF alliances, how is each site working together? Are we cohesive? To show qualitative data for impact, thinking about funding and evaluation. So.
I think, unless somebody's going to send another question in, I will point out that there is concerns expressed in this about the use of the cartoons, in that they may not display the wide variety of people involved in STEM.
Yes.
And we're pulling those cartoons from a well-known site. So,
right. That are free to use.
That are free to use.
Yes.
Check that. But,
yes, that's true.
Here's one more question. Curious, is STEM with another M added a common American term? Someone found it in the UK literature, but is it common to add the medicine part of this?
You know what? I think it's fairly common, more so recently. And if you look at the National Institute for Health, so NIH grants, I notice are showing more STEM-M is how they're referring to it. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a hyphen.
Yes.
Now there is also STEAM.
Yes.
With an E after. No, sorry, with an A after the E.
Yes.
And I've seen that used for 2 different things. One of which is the arts.
Yes.
But before that, it was used in agriculture, where the A stood for agriculture.
Oh, I didn't know.
So I guess it means that we just need to be careful about using the terms that we use need to be defined.
Yes.
Let's put it that way.
Yes, that's a good point.
And here's another comment, that adding the medicine is a way to delineate medicine from math. Here in the U.S., often we say biomedical science to incorporate a broader view than just medicine alone, which often means medical doctor training. So biomedical could include training for those who are going on to become medical doctors, as well as those who are contributing to health science through a PhD or other training program. Okay. And here's a response. STEAM is the A can be a catch-all for various humanities and arts, and STEM is a common term or trend in PK-12 education. At least in the U.S. So I think that we are at the end of the questions that have come in, and I don't see any others. So perhaps you want to go to the last slide about additional information.
Yes. So we have one more webinar coming up in this series on June 7th, Strategies for Measuring the Broader Impacts of NSF Includes Projects. And then we have our website, Facebook and Twitter page, and you are welcome to contact us anytime. I have our director, Pam Bishop's email there, and also my email, and we welcome your feedback.
And thank you very much for your attendance, and we really appreciate your willingness to send us any feedback that you have. You can email Sandra or to Pam or to me. My name's not listed there, but I'm pretty easy to find. Louis Gross, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars, and we will figure out why this little mute button came up.
Yes.
We haven't encountered that before, so we again will be posting the PowerPoints from this, probably as not as PowerPoints, but as PDFs, so that you can see it without that little button there. Okay? So thank you all for your participation. We're going to close it out right now. Thanks.